Chapter 12, Soul Contracts and the Nature of Relationships. The Beatles had a line on the matters of the heart when they sang, "All you need is love, and love is all you need." If only it were that simple. Love is so confusing, and it's no surprise that many of my clients, both male and female, seek me out with questions that pertain to matters of the heart. There are many people who don't feel complete, and they don't have someone special in their lives as a partner or significant other. I know many who go on what is a lifetime quest to find their perfect person, or what is often called the soulmate. Love connections. Finding that person who connects on a soul level happens more than one would imagine, but deciphering the true meaning of the connection is the tricky part. The term soul groups pertains to many spirits who travel around in the same circles during different incarnations or lifetimes. This indicates that we have many soulmates for many different reasons who love and support us for all eternity. The nature of these soulmate relationships changes from one lifetime to the next as we try to balance the scales of our karma and expand our light quotient. In one lifetime, two souls may have been husband and wife, and in another, perhaps a mother and son, but then maybe the roles reverse. The scenarios could go on, repeatedly until both souls have fulfilled their obligations to each other and gained enough soul knowledge to rise to the next plane. Before entering the current lifetime, two souls will come together and enter into a soul contract. Bob may say to Mary, "You protected and cared for me when I was sick. Next, I will protect and care for you." Mary agrees, and so the contract is binding. When the contract is fulfilled and all is settled, they are able to move on, free of any soul obligations. Sign on the dotted line. Just like contracts in business, the unexpected can always occur. Not everyone may uphold his or her end, or he or she may break the deal. This leaves him or her indebted, and he or she is destined to repeat it next time around until the contract is fulfilled. Because the universe is always in perfect balance, it won't allow debts to go unpaid. It's like the annoying debt collector who calls and calls until you pay up. The universe will continue to throw this contract or promise that you made back at you until you uphold your end of the deal. This pertains to matters of the heart as well. My grandmother used to say in Italian, "God has slow feet, but he gets there in due time." In other words, everyone gets where he or she is owed eventually. She was so right. Read the fine print. When you sign a contract or make any agreement, it's important to know the details of what you're getting into. Now, where confusion can come in with regard to our soul circles, soul contracts, and marriage relationships is that one or more persons involved do not accept or have an awareness of the terms of the contract. Not all soul contracts or marriage contracts are meant to be binding for the remainder of the incarnation. Some people, just like ships that pass in the night, simply need to move through, fulfill their obligations, and move on. Understanding that soul contracts have terms that will help you move on to a more enlightened existence when the time comes. We meet again. It has happened to all of us. You meet that guy or girl and are immediately swept off your feet. Although it could appear to feel like love at first sight, What is it in actuality is the soul memory being jarred and recognizing the person with whom you contracted before you entered this lifetime. Keep in mind, you have been here before and are bound to recognize the spirit with which you had an experience in a past life. Just like deja vu, we experience a sense of familiarity that gives us the feeling of, oh, we meet again. A past life connection. When I met my husband, Steve, it was love at first sight for both of us. It was not until 6 months after we met that I remembered a past life regression that I had about 6 years earlier. In the regression, I could see a small Japanese village. I was in a tiny hut with my husband and 3 children. I saw my husband's face clearly, and he looked like someone I knew or had known, yet I had no idea from where. I knew that we were going to be overtaken by the samurai of a rival village, and that the children and I would be taken away, and my husband would be killed. As our small village was being pillaged, the children and I huddled through together in terror. I knew that I did not want to leave my husband and that he was being dishonored in some way. There was no way he could protect us, and I saw the pain in his eyes as he knew that his family would be ripped away from him and that we would never be together again. Instead of being taken away from my husband, I saw a flash, and somehow my children lay still on the ground. I was not shown what actually happened, but I knew that I had somehow plunged a knife into my own stomach and killed myself. As I awoke from the regression in the present time, I felt the pain of losing my husband and my children. I found the regression scary and so sad. I was not sure why I was being shown this horrific scene. For years, I put it out of my mind until I realized Steve was the man whom I had seen as my husband in the regression. The man who was so devastated to lose his family came back to make it right. His spirit needed to seek out and reunite his family once again. His soul was driven to fulfill his obligation to his family. It is no accident that Steve is half Asian and his grandfather is Japanese. Should I stay or should I go? I get calls from clients who are in absolutely miserable situations, troublesome relationships that are filled with jealousy, deceit, sometimes even abuse, yet they have difficulty letting them go. Many lightworkers will stay in or even seek out dysfunctional relationships. There are several reasons lightworkers continually find themselves in unhappy relationships. For a lightworker with heightened sensitivities, life can become a vicious cycle of highs and lows in an attempt to quell the anxieties that go along with the extrasensory perceptions. When we enter into a new romance, we become intoxicated by the feelings that it brings. Hormones and other chemical changes actually make us love drunk. But when reality sets in, the high that it brings will eventually bring on drastic lows. The lightworker will become addicted to the feelings that the new romance brings and seek it out over and over again. These highs will only temporarily soothe the suffering that the unaware lightworker may be going through. Ultimately, it will only bring more pain when we reap the consequences of rushing into consecutive bad relationships to quell the misplaced emotions that we experience from our own heightened components. Also, another problem that lightworkers face is that they are caretakers. As strong empaths, they will not only continuously draw wounded people to them, but literally seek them out. Eventually, The Lightworker becomes drained and depleted from trying to heal everyone, and feelings of being used and foolish take over, finally leaving the Lightworker wondering when he or she will be loved for who he or she is and not for being there to fix everyone. Just like a bright light bulb on our front porch, the Lightworker's bright light draws a lot of bugs. Realizing what you are and controlling your heightened components will help you to not seek relief in the form of relationships. It is important to seek out relationships that are equitable and not one-sided. Remember that balance is very important to the Lightworker. Without it, Lightworkers become unfocused, disoriented, and miserable. So whenever you begin to feel that you are giving too much, you most likely are becoming drained of your light energy, and it is time to either balance out the scales in your relationships or walk away. Little Miss Fix-It. My long-term client Karen, an advertising executive from Toronto and unaware Lightworker, met a man called Gary through a mutual friend. She would call and tell me how they just clicked right off the bat and that the chemistry between them was magnetic. This went on for several months and everything appeared to be going well. I would counsel her periodically if she was feeling insecure or misunderstood in the relationship. Karen had always been a confident and self-reliant woman, but at times, Gary was making her feel insecure or just not good enough. About 6 months into the relationship, things seemed to take a turn for the worst. Gary began to become jealous, possessive, and controlling. Karen would call and tell me that she loved him, but felt that Gary was now overbearing and controlling. It turned out that Gary had been through a painful divorce and his ex-wife had cheated on him. His ego, pride, and self-esteem were wounded, and he was desperately looking to Karen to resolve his issues. Gary was drawn to Karen because of her healing Lightworker energy, and Karen was drawn to Gary because he was wounded, and her inner Lightworker was always seeking to heal someone. Karen soon realized that no matter what she did, she could not heal Gary's wounds, and that he needed to do this himself. She did not want to end the relationship, but she was beginning to feel that it was not enhancing her life, but rather becoming a drain on her. Ultimately, she decided to end the relationship because the imbalance that it was creating was affecting her entire life. I supported her decision and helped her through the process of grieving this breakup. It was important for Karen to realize that she was acting in more of a Lightworker capacity, trying to heal Gary. A relationship should not involve you trying to fix or heal a wounded partner. It should be an equitable exchange of love and support. In this case, I did support Karen, but my suggestions on a relationship usually depend on the depth of the relationship. For example, if the individuals are in a troubled romance, such as Karen and Gary, I may advise them to move on and offer support in the process. If they are taking the relationship to a point at which their lives are so entwined that there is no immediate release, children, financial commitments, I may make other suggestions. I knew from Karen's readings that she had contracted with another soul for marriage and children. The longer she procrastinated about the relationship with Gary, the longer she delayed her marriage partner from coming into her life. This was her free will. The man whom she was meant to marry would have to wait until she accepted the fact that she could not heal Gary and had to let him go. How do we know when to let go? This is a question that I get all the time. The answer is we usually get many signs. Remember your Lightworker gift of awareness, although we refuse to see them. If we honestly look at our situation, we can see that we are beating a dead horse and know when it's time to say goodbye. We have many tools to guide us on the roads that we choose. Using your Lightworker gifts as a guide can help you through the obstacles, courses of your relationships. We need to recognize the differences between relationships, which ones we need to stay in versus the ones that are a result of being an unaware Lightworker or a partner in a soul contract. Each one could feel like euphoria. Each one could break your heart, and both are meant for the purpose of spiritual progress. This is how the two can compare to each other. Soul contract or unaware Lightworker relationship could feel like love at first sight. Life partnership could feel like love at first sight. Soul contract or unaware Lightworker relationship could have a lot of passion for a certain time span. A life partnership could have a lot of passion for a certain time span. Soul contract or unaware Lightworker relationship. The relationship could be happy for a short time. Life partnership. The relationship becomes stabilized. Soul contract or unaware Lightworker relationship. The relationship could become codependent. Life partnership. The relationship is equitable. Soul contract or unaware Lightworker relationship. The relationship could become violent. Life partnership. Your life is enriched. Soul contract or unaware Lightworker relationship. The relationship makes you feel depressed. Life partnership. You feel contentment. Soul contract or unaware Lightworker relationship. The relationship makes you feel drained. Life partnership. You feel secure. Soul contract or unaware Lightworker relationship. The relationship brings you frustration. Life partnership. You care for your partner when he or she is in need. Soul contract or unaware Lightworker relationship. The relationship stops you from achieving your true goals. Life partnership. Your partner cares for you when you are in need. Soul contract or unaware Lightworker relationship. There could be jealousy and deceit in the relationship. Life partnership. You support each other in manifesting your individual dreams. Soul contract or unaware Lightworker relationship. You feel like your partner does not respect you. Life partnership. You work to build a life together, not destroy each other's lives individually. You feel complete. Jerry Maguire was right on point. Soul contract or unaware Lightworker relationship. You feel misunderstood. Soul contract or unaware Lightworker relationship. You feel like you need to get out. As you can see, they start off the same way, but end up very differently. Now, the ideal situation is to realize what type of relationship you are in early or before any damage is done, or you dig a hole that you cannot get out of. If we are really honest with ourselves, it can be very easy to distinguish between the two types of relationships. This is what it looked like. How our ego gets in the way. Our spirit knows our true path. The soul always knows its path and will do anything to follow it. The spirit has to battle another powerful force, our ego. This is what keeps us trapped in these life lesson relationships and prevents us from manifesting what we really desire. The ego, wounded and fear-based, will gather up all our life experiences, hurts, pains, and insecurities and throw them out at us at the most inopportune times. For example, it's true that most of us feel pushed by our egos to have a life partner and will stretch the truth in order to find one. Jenna was a 40-year-old lawyer who called me for a reading. She was dating a man at work who was married, but he was certainly going to leave his wife for her because that's what he had been promising her for the last year. "Why are you doing this to yourself?" I asked her. "Do you really want a man in your life that has a wife and children? Do you even really want a relationship?" The truth was that Jenna's parents divorced when she was young, and she was scared to death of love. On a deeper level, she spent most of her adult life choosing men who had issues that were so complicated that a relationship with Jenna wasn't in the cards. As a lawyer, Jenna was used to going up against tough adversaries in court. If another woman, such as a wife, was in the picture, Jenna's ego dictated that she would win the guy away. We had to take her issues down to a spiritual level to figure out why she was abusing herself in this way. Before she even told me about her parents' rocky marriage, I sat her down for a reading, and the answers were obvious to me. "I see a father. He is walking out of the door instead of in the door," I said. "I see a mother who is crying," I continued. At that point, I knew the depth of Jenna's pain and could feel her lifelong torment of believing that men don't stay, but look for the quickest escape route possible. It followed that Jenna chose unavailable men because she knew on a psychic level that they would never really walk in the door with both feet. This way, they could never really hurt her on the deepest level because she knew that the love would be fleeting from the start. I did a reading with a woman named Lydia who didn't say anything but simply sat down on my couch and told me that she was feeling depressed. "You have issues with your father," I said. "I've never met my father," she said. "He left before I was born." "And now another man has left you, and that's why you're here," I said. Her deep-rooted abandonment issues had come to the forefront again when her husband of 10 years announced that he wanted a divorce and had a new girlfriend. "Lydia, what you don't consciously realize is that you came into this world with abandonment issues," I said. "Your spirit came here wounded, knowing that part of your life would be missing." Lydia's mother loved her, but on a spiritual level, she grew up with a serious fear of men and their intentions. The interesting part of our reading was that the fact that her husband walked out seemed expected. Her issues with her father remained unhealed. "I didn't realize until now how much I really miss my father, which seems strange because I never met him," she said. "I guess before I go on in life, I need to deal with these issues." It's hard to say this because what Lydia's husband did by cheating was heinous, but some of the blame was the result of his wife's torments. "I guess I pulled away from my husband emotionally in the second year of our marriage," she said. "Deep down, I still feel like I'll never really be happy in a close male-female relationship, so spiritually I pulled out and detached before I could detach and leave, before he could detach and leave. It was almost a self-fulfilling wish." She took her loving energy out of the relationship and her husband felt abandoned. It took many years, but after hanging in there and waiting for his wife to return to him, he decided that it was impossible and looked for love elsewhere. Lydia had literally turned him into her father. Now, if Lydia could peel back all the layers of her ego and get down to her true spiritual self, she would be able to find her way. The ego loves to throw out these roadblocks to our happiness, especially in relationships. We need to find the tools to toss them aside and listen to our spiritual selves instead of our wounded egos. The key here is to use your heightened components, especially the gift of awareness, and keep your eyes open for signs. If we truly listen to the guidance and direction that is always there for us, we could find our way to a life partner. Build a mate. If only you could go to a one-stop soulmate store and punch in a few particulars. You might write, I'm looking for someone tall, dark, handsome, good sense of humor, and likes Adam Sandler movies. Oh, he also has to love kids and cars and cats. Cats. There are dating services that promise that if you just answer a complicated set of questions, they will put your answers through a computer and out will pop your soulmate. He might live in Alaska while you dwell in New Jersey, but the good news is he's out there standing on some snow-capped mountain waiting just for you, and he likes cats. Ghost of relationships past. When you find love, the confusion becomes thicker, and emotions can get even murkier, because many times your past experiences with relationships will influence your current one. These are soul wounds that you have not healed. We need to heal the wounds of our past, or they will continually cause us pain. If a past partner cheated on you, then a surge of jealousy might feel overwhelming when your new person talks to the supermarket checkout girl. Maybe you've never really had great self-esteem and can't believe that someone would love you. Unconsciously, you do almost everything possible to derail the new relationship, including pulling back your emotions in order to protect your heart from future hurt. I had a client who was deeply in love with a man who lived around the corner from her Detroit home. After years of talking, friendship, and even a bit of flirting, he finally confessed to the fact that he loved her and had for years. They dated for a blissful summer until she decided to suddenly dump him. He couldn't understand what had happened and thought that perhaps he didn't have a nice enough home or car for her tastes. That wasn't even the least bit true. She pulled out, figuring that she would beat him to the punch because nothing this beautiful could last forever. Releasing your ghosts. We all have been left injured by romantic relationships at one time or another. How do we heal these wounds in order to become healthy enough to embark upon another relationship? Carrying the dark energy of a dysfunctional relationship will surely infect the next one. It is a necessity to heal and cleanse the ego and spirit before moving on. Perhaps you know someone who is beautiful, successful, and fun, yet he or she never seemed to find a great romantic partner. And if he or she does find one, the relationship doesn't last very long. One of the reasons, if you look at this from a spiritual standpoint, is that he or she has mistaken the nature of the connection. I believe that the universe does have a soulmate, or many soulmates designed for your current life. That doesn't mean that others won't enter your life on a romantic level, but these relationships will be fleeting because this person isn't there to give you what you ultimately need or want. In other words, it's simple. This isn't the one who you're supposed to be with in this life. I have many clients who are like Mary, a 30-year-old teacher who was very relationship savvy but confused by her current breakup. It seemed that Tim was perfect for her. He was a CPA with a promising future. They dated for a year, went on a few vacations together, and even met each other's families. But there seemed to be an invisible wall where Tim wouldn't really discuss a real future, and Mary was nervous about bringing it up. When he finally confessed that he loved her but wasn't in love with her and wanted to see other people, she was devastated. She made an appointment with me. "But I love him," she told me through her tears. "I thought that he was going to ask me to be his wife." We dug a little deeper, and I found that Mary wanted to get to the finish line with Tim and get the ring, the house, and the family. But when she really stopped for a moment to consider if Tim was the one, she had to pause. "He has a great job and a nice family," she said. "It makes sense." It made sense to me that Mary was like many single women who didn't want to throw away someone who seemed like a sensible choice. There were so many times in life where there wasn't even that type of choice available in the sea of men that made Tim look like a prince. But just because someone looks good on paper or seems like a reasonable choice doesn't mean that on a spiritual level he or she is our life mate. You really have to cull it down to the real person. Ask your heart and dig into your soul to answer this question. Is this my spiritual partner on the deepest level? It's true that most of us feel the need to have a life partner and will stretch the truth in order to find one. Going back to my client Lydia, we can see that she went into her relationship almost manifesting the guy to leave her through her thinking and feelings of deep insecurity. She never felt satisfied because an event that happened before she was even born. Now that Lydia knew her issues from our reading and her awareness of the deep-seated insecurities were right in her face, she could begin to tackle her demons. She could heal. She could love again someday without putting the abandonment blanket on every man whom she would ever meet in her life. In fact, a funny thing happened to her after doing some work with her counselor and me. 2 years later, after her divorce was final, she met a single dad at her daughter's school bake sale. He was fumbling with a tray of cupcakes that she helped to arrange despite the horrible messy frosting that had been the result of the harried parent trying to do 10 million things at the same time. It turns out that his wife had died 3 years earlier. Both were a little afraid of love and decided to become friends. 2 years later, they were married. This information tells us that the recipe to manifest in a life partnership or marriage is not simple, but can be done if we recognize certain clues that are really very apparent. In relationships, remember to always use your Lightworker gifts of intuition, sensitivity, awareness, empathy, and belief. Also, keep in mind that not all love connections are meant to be marriage commitments, but can also be deeply spiritual in nature. If we truly accept the nature of our relationships, are in the relationship for the right reasons, and use our components as guides, we will progress to the next step on our path, ultimately leading to a happy life and a fulfilling relationship. Each person who comes into your life has a purpose. Live, learn, love, and remember, No connection with another spirit is ever in vain.